You can sleep on the floor until you learn to respect our privacy." My daughter-in-law's icy voice cut through the phone like a slap across the face. 71 years of life, and for the first time, someone was ordering me to sleep on the floor like a dog in my own home. "Understood?" I replied. A single word, cold, calculated, because in that moment something inside of me died forever. 20 minutes later, I was dragging a mattress across the living room of my own house, preparing my new room on the cold floor where Jessica had decided I should spend the night, as a punishment, as a lesson. I'm Helen. For 3 years, I transformed my home into the perfect paradise for my son Michael and his wife. 3 years cooking their favorite meals, washing their clothes, cleaning up their messes, smiling while they treated me like the invisible housekeeper. But that night, as I arranged the sheets over the mattress on the floor, something changed. The sound of my knees cracking as I knelt on the chilly tile woke me from a 3-year-long dream, a dream where I believed that love and devotion would earn me their respect. How stupid I had been. The house smelled of the pot roast I had cooked for 4 hours, thinking we would have dinner together as a family. The dining room table was still set with my best dishes, the candles already melted, the food cold and forgotten, all prepared for a dinner that never happened. Instead, I got that call. Helen, my neighbor Barbara, who loves me like a sister, had whispered, "You have to hear this." She passed me her phone where she had recorded a conversation Jessica had with her friend that afternoon. My daughter-in-law's voice laughing. "I can't stand that meddling old woman anymore. Today I'm going to put her in her place. I'm going to teach her who's boss in this house." Then came the direct message for me. Now here I was, a 71-year-old woman, preparing my bed on the floor as if I were a punished child. My hands trembled as I spread the blanket. Not from cold, but from a rage that had been silently growing for 1,000 days. 3 years ago, when Michael asked if they could live with me, temporarily, I had emptied my primary bedroom to give to them. I had turned the small sewing room into my new bedroom, telling myself it was temporary, that soon they would have their own place. "It's just until we save up for a down payment on our own apartment, Mom," Michael had told me with that smile that had melted my heart since he was a baby. But the months turned into years, and my temporary became permanent. And I, like a fool, kept cooking, cleaning, paying the electricity bills that doubled, buying the groceries they consumed without so much as a thank you. Jessica never worked. She would get up at noon, eat the breakfast I prepared, leave her dirty dishes in the sink, and go out with her friends. She would return at night expecting dinner to be ready, her clothes to be washed, the house to be spotless. I, like a stupid fool, did it all with a smile. "Mom, it's just that Jessica is looking for a job," Michael would say whenever I hinted that perhaps she could help a little around the house. "Mom, Jessica comes from a different kind of family. She's not used to these things." "Mom, Jessica is stressed. It was always my fault for not understanding, for not being patient enough, for not being modern enough." But that night, lying on the mattress on the floor, staring at the living room ceiling I had painted with so much love when I thought it would be our family home, I finally understood the truth. I wasn't a loving mother. I was a fool. I wasn't an understanding mother-in-law. I was a free servant. I wasn't part of the family. I was the obstacle that needed to be removed. And that realization, as painful as a knife in the chest, was also my liberation. For the first time in 3 years, I slept soundly that night. I woke at 5 in the morning with an aching body and a broken soul. My bones creaked after a night on the floor. But for the first time in 3 years, my mind was completely clear. I got up silently, folded the sheets, and put the mattress away in the closet as if nothing had happened. As always, I made breakfast. Scrambled eggs for Michael, toast with jam for Jessica, freshly ground coffee that filled the kitchen with its familiar aroma. My hands moved automatically while my head processed what I had lived through the night before. "Good morning, Mom," Michael mumbled, coming down the stairs with his hair disheveled. He sat in his usual spot, picked up his fork, and began to eat without even looking at me, as if it were normal for his 71-year-old mother to have slept on the floor on his wife's orders. Jessica appeared 20 minutes later, wearing a pink silk robe that I had washed and ironed the week before. She poured herself coffee, took a piece of toast, and checked her phone while she ate. She didn't give me a single glance. "Michael, honey, my friends are coming for lunch today," she announced, without looking up from the screen. "I need your mom to make something special, to impress them." My son nodded without a second thought. "Of course, sweetheart. Mom, could you make that roast chicken they liked so much last time?" I stood by the sink, my hands wet from washing the dishes they had dirtied, and for the first time in 3 years, I didn't answer immediately. The silence stretched until it became uncomfortable. "Mom?" Michael insisted. "Of course," I finally murmured, because that was what I always did. Say yes, smile, please. But something had changed. While I chopped vegetables for the special lunch for Jessica's friends, while I seasoned the chicken with herbs I grew in my small backyard, while I set the table with my good china, a new voice whispered in my head. Why? Why did I have to cook to impress the friends of a woman who had humiliated me the night before? Why did I have to use my money to buy expensive ingredients for people who didn't even greet me when they arrived at my home? Jessica's friends arrived at noon. 3 women in their 30s, dressed in expensive clothes, carrying designer bags that cost more than my monthly Social Security check. They walked into my house as if it were a restaurant, laughing loudly, dropping their coats anywhere for me to hang up. "It smells delicious," one of them exclaimed. "Jessica, you're so lucky to have a mother-in-law who cooks like this." "Yes, she's very useful," Jessica replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Although sometimes she gets a little too involved in our business." They all laughed, as if I weren't standing right there, serving the lunch I had spent 3 hours preparing. "So when are you two moving into your own place?" another friend asked. "Oh, I don't know," Jessica sighed dramatically. "We're just so comfortable here. We don't pay rent, we don't buy food, we don't clean. It's like living in a 5-star hotel, with room service included. More laughter, more humiliation." I kept serving, smiling, being invisible. "Besides," Jessica continued, lowering her voice, "but not enough, Michael is very attached to his mom. He says we can't leave her alone, as if it's our responsibility to take care of some old woman." An old woman. That's what she thought of me. A burden, a nuisance, an old woman to be tolerated. I finished serving the cheesecake I had prepared that morning, the one that had taken me 2 hours to make, and retreated to the kitchen. From there I could hear their conversations, their laughter, their derogatory comments about the mother-in-law who doesn't understand boundaries. I washed the dishes in silence, put away the leftover ingredients, cleaned the kitchen until it sparkled. All automatic, all mechanical, while my mind processed every word I had heard. When they left, Jessica didn't thank me. Neither did Michael. They just disappeared into their room, my old room, and left me alone cleaning up the remains of a lunch where I had been the butt of the joke. That evening, as I was preparing dinner, Jessica came down to the kitchen again. She leaned against the counter and looked at me with that fake smile she had perfected. "Helen," she said in a syrupy voice, "I hope you got the message from yesterday. It's not personal, but Michael and I need our space. As a young couple, you understand?" I nodded, without stopping my stirring of the soup simmering on the stove. "Good," she continued. "And one more thing, my friends will be coming over more often. I need the house to be spotless at all times, okay? We don't want them to think we live modestly." "Modestly, in my own house, with my money, with my work?" "Understood," I said again. That word that had become my refuge, my armor. But inside, something was roaring. The breaking point came 3 weeks later, on a morning that started like any other. I was in the kitchen making breakfast when I heard Jessica talking on the phone in the living room. Her voice, loud and carefree, carried through the walls as if she owned the world. "No, Mom, don't spend money on a hotel. Just stay here when you come to visit," she said, laughing. "After all, the mother-in-law can sleep on the couch for a few days. It won't kill her." I froze with the skillet in my hand. The couch? After making me sleep on the floor, now she wanted me to sleep on the couch so her mother could use my sewing room? "Yeah, Mom, you know how old people are. They get used to anything," Jessica continued. "Besides, that way she can help me more around the house. When you have free domestic help, you have to make the most of it." Free domestic help. That's what I was to her. Of course Michael agrees, she lied shamelessly. He understands that my comfort comes first. That's why we got married, right? So he could take care of me and give me everything I deserve. I turned off the burner with trembling hands. 71 years of working, of raising my son alone after his father abandoned us. Sacrificing my dreams so Michael could go to college, could grow, could become the man who was now so blinded by a woman that he couldn't see how she was humiliating his own mother. The problem is the old woman gets sentimental sometimes, Jessica went on. Yesterday she told me she missed sleeping in her own bed, as if that's my problem. I told her straight up, Helen, this is my house now. If you don't like it, you know where the door island. She was lying. She had never said that to me. But the mere fact that she was inventing it for her mother broke my heart. Do I feel guilty? Not at all, Mom. These old ladies need to understand their place in the world. They've had their time, now it's our turn. Something inside me exploded. I walked toward the living room where Jessica was still talking, lounging comfortably on my sofa, her bare feet propped up on the coffee table that had belonged to my mother. I stared at her until she felt my presence and looked up. Mom, I'll call you back, she murmured into the phone. But she didn't hang up. She wanted her mother to hear what she was about to say to me. What do you need, Helen? She asked with that perfected, icy smile. I need you to pack your things, I said, in a voice I didn't recognize as my own, and get out of my house. Jessica blinked, confused. Excuse me? You heard me. I want you and Michael to leave, today. She sat up on the sofa, the phone still at her ear. You can't be serious. This house belongs to Michael too. He's your son. This house is mine. It's in my name. I pay the property taxes. I pay the utilities. And I don't want you living here anymore. For the first time in 3 years, I saw fear in Jessica's eyes. Real fear. Michael, she screamed toward the stairs. Get down here. Your mother has lost her mind. My son came running down, his shirt half buttoned. What's going on? Your mother is kicking us out of the house, Jessica sobbed, instantly switching to victim mode. I don't know what I did wrong. I was just talking to my mom and suddenly she got like this. Michael looked at me with an expression I knew so well. The same one he'd get as a child when he'd done something wrong. Confusion mixed with guilt. Mom, what's happening? Why are you doing this? Ask your wife, I replied, my gaze fixed on Jessica. Ask her what she said to me last night about sleeping on the couch. Ask her what she tells her friends about the useless old woman who cooks for them for free. That's not true, Jessica protested, but her cheeks turned red. You're lying. You're making things up because you're jealous that Michael loves me more than you. Mom, please, Michael pleaded with me. There must have been a misunderstanding. Jessica wouldn't. Wouldn't what, Michael? I cut him off. Wouldn't order me to sleep on the floor like a dog? Wouldn't call me free domestic help? Wouldn't make fun of me with her friends in my own house? Michael fell silent. In his eyes, I saw the exact moment he realized I was telling the truth. But I also saw something else. Something that broke my heart forever. I saw that he didn't care. Mom, he whispered, maybe you're exaggerating a little. Jessica is young. Sometimes she says things without thinking. But you know we want you here. They wanted me there. As the housekeeper who worked for free. As the old woman who took care of all the problems so they could live like royalty. I walked to the front door and opened it wide. Out, I said. Both of you. Now. You can't do this. Jessica shrieked. You don't have the right. I smiled for the first time in weeks. I have every right in the world. This is my house. Mom, you can't be serious, Michael shouted. But for the first time in 3 years, I was completely serious. Where are we going to go? We don't have any money saved. That's not my problem, I replied with a calm that surprised even myself. You had 3 years to save. 3 years living rent-free, eating for free, without paying a single bill. What did you spend your money on? Jessica stood up like a cornered animal. You told us we could stay. You made us believe this was our house too. It was a temporary favor. You turned it into a permanent arrangement without asking me. But we're family, Jessica sobbed, and for the first time, her tears seemed real. I thought you loved me like a daughter. I laughed. A bitter laugh that came from the depths of my broken soul. Like a daughter? Daughters help their mothers. Daughters appreciate sacrifices. Daughters don't order their mothers to sleep on the floor. It was a misunderstanding, she cried desperately. I was angry because. Because what, Jessica? Because I breathed in your presence? Because I existed in my own house? Michael approached me, his eyes pleading. Mom, please, just give me 1 week to find something. Just 1 week. Number. I said, no, Michael. You're leaving today. Now. But it's Saturday. We can't find an apartment on a Saturday. You could find time to humiliate me on a Saturday. You could find time to make fun of me on a Saturday. Now you can find a place to sleep on a Saturday. Jessica ran towards the stairs. I'm going to pack, but this isn't over. You have no right to treat us like this. Jessica, I called out before she went up. She turned, her face twisted with rage. Do you know what the saddest part of all this is? She looked at me without responding. That I really wanted to love you. That for 3 years I woke up every day, hoping you would give me a chance to be the mother-in-law you needed. That I saved money to buy you anniversary gifts. That I planned special dinners to make you feel welcome. Her eyes filled with tears, but I didn't care anymore. That when you were sick last year, I stayed up all night taking care of you. That when your mother yelled at you on the phone, I was the one who comforted you. That when Michael worked late, I was the one who kept you company so you wouldn't feel lonely. Helen, she whispered. But none of that mattered, did it? Because to you, I was always just the stupid old woman you could use and throw away whenever you felt like it. She remained silent because she knew it was true. 2 hours later, their suitcases were by the entrance. Jessica was crying on the sofa while Michael loaded the bags into the car. The house felt strange, as if I had just woken up from a very long nightmare. Mom, Michael said to me as he carried the last suitcase out. This isn't right. We're your family. Family doesn't humiliate. Family doesn't belittle. Family doesn't use. You're making a mistake. When you calm down, you're going to regret this. I looked at him intently. My son, the baby I nursed for a year, the little boy I read stories to every night, the teenager for whom I worked double shifts to pay for his college. Michael, I said softly, the only thing I regret is that it took me 3 years to realize you're no longer the son I raised. He fell silent. For a moment, I thought I saw the boy he once was, but the illusion vanished when Jessica called him from the car. Michael, let's go. We don't have to put up with this. My son looked at me one last time. When you change your mind, you know where to find us. I'm not going to change my mind. He got into the car without saying goodbye. Jessica shot me a venomous look from the passenger window, but it no longer affected me. She had lost all her power over me. I watched them drive away from the front door of my house. Their car disappeared around the corner, and for the first time in 3 years, the silence that remained didn't scare me. It hurt me, it shattered me, but it didn't scare me. I closed the door and leaned against it. The house smelled different. It smelled like freedom. I walked to the kitchen, and for the first time in 1,000 days, there were no dirty dishes waiting for me. There were no clothes to wash. There were no dinners to prepare for ungrateful people. I went up the stairs to my old bedroom. Their room. The door was open. They had left a few things. A magazine on the nightstand, a sock under the bed, a bottle of perfume on the dresser. I sat on the bed that had been mine and could now be mine again. The sheets smelled like them, but that could be changed. Everything could be changed. I picked up my phone and dialed Barbara's number. Helen, she answered with her caring voice. How are you, honey? I need your help changing my sheets. Barbara arrived in less than 20 minutes with a box of pastries and that motherly smile that had been my lifeline during so many difficult years. When I opened the door, she didn't ask any questions. She just hugged me tightly, and I knew I had made the right decision. My girl, she whispered as she held me close. It was about time. We went up together to change the sheets in my bedroom. Barbara worked in silence, folding the linens that smelled of Jessica and Michael, while I opened the windows to let in the fresh air. For the first time in 3 years, the afternoon sun fully illuminated my room. You know what the strangest thing is? I said as I shook out the curtains. I don't feel guilty. Barbara stopped with a pillow in her hands. Why on earth would you feel guilty? Because I'm his mother. Because mothers are supposed to sacrifice everything for their children, no matter what. Oh, Helen, Barbara sighed, sitting on the bare mattress. Who told you that lie? My whole life. My mother used to tell me. Society tells me. Even I used to tell myself. Well, they lied to you, honey. Children grow up to be independent, not to turn their mothers into slaves. Barbara was 73, 2 years older than me, but with a wisdom I was just beginning to discover. Her 4 children lived in different cities. They worked, had their own families, and when they visited her, it was with genuine respect and affection. Barbara, I asked as she put clean sheets on my bed, do you think I'm a bad person? She laughed, a clean laugh that filled the room with light. Helen, dear, you're the most generous person I know. Too generous. That was always your problem. Too generous? Yes, honey. There's a difference between giving love and letting people walk all over you. You never learned that difference. That night, Barbara stayed for dinner with me. We cooked together, something simple and delicious. And we ate at the kitchen table, instead of in the formal dining room. We talked about everything. About our children. About our mistakes. About the years we had left to live. Do you know what you're going to do now? Barbara asked as we washed the dishes. I have no idea, I confessed. For 3 years, my entire life revolved around them. I don't know how to live just for myself. Well, you're going to learn. And it's going to be the most beautiful adventure of your life. How can you be so sure? Barbara dried my hands with a dish towel and held my face as if I were her own daughter. Because for the first time in years, when I look into your eyes, I see Helen. The real Helen. Not the shadow of a woman you had become. That night I slept in my bed. My real bed. Between sheets that smelled of floral fabric softener and in a room where no one had told me I didn't belong. I slept for 8 straight hours without waking up once. The next morning, Sunday, I got up without rushing. There was no breakfast to prepare, no clothes to wash, no house to clean to impress anyone's friends. I made coffee just for me, toast just for me. And I sat on my patio to watch the sunrise for the first time in 3 years. The phone rang at 10 in the morning. It was Michael. Mom. His voice sounded tired, defeated. We spent the night in a hotel. Jessica hasn't stopped crying. And, Mom, please. This is ridiculous. We're a family. You two are a family, I corrected him. I am your mother. There's a difference. I don't understand what's gotten into you. Why are you being so cruel? I laughed. Cruel, Michael. You want me to tell you what cruel is? Cruel is ordering your mother to sleep on the floor. Cruel is calling her free domestic help. Cruel is making fun of her with your friends in her own house. Silence on the other end of the line. Michael, I continued, for 3 years you lived rent-free in my house. You ate my food. You used my utilities. You slept in my bed. And never, not once, did you ask me how I was. If I was tired. If I needed help. If I was happy. Mom, we just thought you. You didn't think. That was the problem. What do you want us to do? Get on our knees and beg for forgiveness? I don't want you to do anything, Michael. You've already done enough. But you can't just cut ties like this. I'm your son. Being my son didn't give you the right to disrespect me. And being your mother didn't obligate me to put up with it. I hung up the phone and put it on silent. The rest of the Sunday was magical. I read a book I had bought months ago but never had time to open. I watered my plants without rushing. I called my sister, Margaret, who lived in another city, and we talked for 2 hours without anyone interrupting me to ask me to make something. Helen, Margaret said before we hung up, you sound different. You sound free. I feel free, I confessed. And for the first time in years, I feel proud of myself. That night, as I lay in my bed, in my room, in my silent and peaceful house, I knew I had done the right thing. I had finally come home to my own life. On Monday morning, the first attacks began. Not physical, but something much worse. Emotional blackmail disguised as family concern. My phone rang at 7 in the morning. It was Jessica's mother, a woman who had never said a word to me in 3 years, but who now presented herself as the voice of reason. Helen, it's Linda, Jessica's mom. she said in a syrupy voice. I'm very worried about this situation. What situation? I asked, though I knew perfectly well what she was talking about. Honey, the kids told me what happened. Look, I know that sometimes we daughters-in-law can be complicated, but kicking your own son out of the house is a very serious thing. I didn't kick my son out. I asked them to leave my home after 3 years of abuse. Abuse? Oh, Helen, don't exaggerate. They're just kids. They're learning. Jessica tells me she has always treated you with so much respect. I let out a mirthless laugh. Respect? Is ordering me to sleep on the floor respect? I'm sure it was a misunderstanding. Jessica is devastated, Helen. She hasn't stopped crying since yesterday. What a shame. An uncomfortable silence followed. Linda had expected me to immediately give in to her daughter's tears. Helen, she continued, her voice firmer, you can't be so cruel. Think about your grandchild. What grandchild? The one they're going to have. Jessica's pregnant. My blood ran cold. What? She just found out last night. That's why they're so desperate. They can't be bouncing from hotel to hotel with a baby on the way. I hung up the phone with trembling hands. Pregnant? Jessica was pregnant, and they were telling me this now, just as I had kicked them out? The phone rang again. This time it was Michael. Mom, I need to talk to you. Your mother-in-law already called me. Did she tell you about the baby? Yes. Mom, please. Everything changes now. You're going to be a grandmother. You can't deny your grandchild the right to know you. Is she really pregnant? Or is this just another manipulation? Of course she's pregnant. How can you even ask me that? Because for 3 years you've lied about everything else. Mom, if you don't let us come back, my child will grow up thinking their grandmother didn't love them. The blow was a direct hit. He had found my weak spot, and he knew it. Come to the house, I finally said. But just you. I want to talk to you alone. Michael arrived an hour later, with dark circles under his eyes and wrinkled clothes. He sat in the living room like a stranger, his hands clasped together, his gaze lowered. Show me the pregnancy test, I said without preamble. Excuse me? If Jessica is pregnant, she must have a medical test. Show it to me. Mom, you seriously don't believe me? I seriously don't believe either of you. The time for blind trust is over. Michael took out his phone and showed me a picture. It was a home pregnancy test with 2 pink lines, but something looked off. When was this test taken? Last night? Where? At the hotel? And where did you buy the test? The pharmacies close early on Sundays. Michael got nervous. We had it saved. Saved? Yes. Why? Because we've been trying to get pregnant for months. That's a lie. What? It's a lie, Michael. If you had been trying for months, Jessica would have stopped taking birth control. And I know she's still taking it, because I was the one who picked up her prescription at the pharmacy. My son fell silent, trapped in his own lie. Besides, I continued, that photo is edited. You can see the filter they used to make the lines more intense. Mom, tell me the truth, Michael. Is she pregnant or not? He hung his head, just like when he was 10 years old, and I'd catch him getting into mischief. She's not pregnant. And whose idea was this? Yours or hers? Jessica's. But Mom, we were desperate. We have nowhere to go. You had jobs. You had salaries. You had 3 years to save. But we thought that you were so stupid you were going to gift us your house forever? Michael stood up. It's not your house. It's the family house. Dad helped pay for it too. Your father left when you were 5 years old. I paid for this house by myself, working 2 jobs while raising a boy who now lies to my face. Mom, please, 1 more week. We just need 1 week to find something. Number. Why not? Because I don't trust you. Because 1 week would turn into a month into a year, and a year into me being your housekeeper again. Number. You're not our employee, are you? Then what am I, Michael? Your guest in my own home? Your tenant who pays to live here? He had no answer. Go, I said, tired. And don't come back until you understand that being my son doesn't give you the right to disrespect me. Mom, if I leave now, I might never come back. I looked at him squarely. Maybe that's for the best for both of us. Michael left, slamming the door. But this time, the sound didn't scare me. It was the sound of a door closing for good on a chapter of my life that had lasted far too long. That afternoon, Barbara came over for coffee and found me calm. "How are you after all this?" "Free," I said. Finally free. For the next 2 weeks, the house was filled with a silence that at first terrified me, but gradually became the most beautiful symphony I had heard in years. For the first time since Michael got married, I could walk barefoot through my own house, leave a half-finished cup of tea without someone scolding me, sleep in on Sundays without anyone expecting breakfast to be ready. But Michael and Jessica hadn't given up. Their attacks came in ways I never imagined. One Tuesday morning, while I was watering my plants in the garden, a police car pulled up. 2 uniformed officers knocked on my door with serious expressions. "Ma'am, are you Helen Miller?" the younger one asked. "Yes, that's me. We received a report of a vulnerable person being neglected. Your son, Michael Miller, reported that you are living alone, have memory problems, and may be a danger to yourself." Mayaf dropped. "I'm sorry?" He also mentioned that you kicked them out of the house during an episode of mental confusion and that they are concerned for your well-being. The fury I felt in that moment was unlike anything I had ever experienced before. It wasn't the blind rage from when they humiliated me. It was a cold, calculated indignation. "Officers," I said, in the calmest voice I could muster, "can I offer you a cup of coffee while I explain the real situation?" I invited them in. I served them coffee in my best china. I showed them my perfectly cared-for plants. I showed them my spotless house. I let them check my medications, which were organized by day and time. "Does it seem to you that a person with memory problems could keep all this in order?" I asked. The older officer smiled. "Ma'am, it's clear you're perfectly fine. This happens more often than you'd think, children using the authorities to pressure their parents. What can I do about it? We're going to report that the complaint is false, and if they do it again, they could face charges for misuse of police resources." After they left, I called Barbara. I needed to tell someone what had happened before my head exploded. "Oh, honey," Barbara sighed after hearing the whole story. "They've really hit rock bottom now. When they start using the police, it means they're out of ideas. Do you think they'll stop?" "No, they'll get worse. But you have to stand firm." Barbara was right. The next day, a social worker arrived. This time, the report was that I was depressed and at risk of suicide because I had thrown my family out during a psychotic break. The social worker, an older woman named Patricia, was easier to convince than the police. After an hour of conversation, it was clear that not only was I mentally stable, but I had made the healthiest decision of my life. "Mrs. Miller," she said before leaving, "I've seen many cases like this. Adult children who can't accept that their parents have boundaries. Your son needs therapy, not you." But the worst was yet to come. On Friday afternoon, Barbara came running to my house with the local paper in her hands. "Helen, you need to see this." It was an article in the letters to the editor section, signed by Michael Miller, a concerned son. The headline made my blood run cold. "When Alzheimer's Tears Families Apart." In the article, Michael described a mother who had started showing signs of dementia, who had become aggressive and paranoid, and who had kicked her son and daughter-in-law out of the house in a fit of confusion. He asked for the community's understanding for families struggling with this terrible disease. "He's publicly diagnosing me with Alzheimer's," I screamed after reading the entire letter. "He's telling the whole town that I'm crazy." Barbara hugged me as I trembled with outrage. "Honey, this is defamation. You can sue him." That same afternoon, I called Stephen Miller, a lawyer I had known years ago when I worked as a secretary at a law firm. Stephen now had his own practice and an impeccable reputation. "Helen," he said after listening to the whole story, "you have a solid case for defamation, but you also have something else." "What's that?" "Harassment. The false calls to the police, the social worker, now this letter in the paper. It's a clear pattern of harassment. What can I do? We can file for a restraining order, and we can sue for both defamation and emotional distress." "How much will it cost?" Stephen smiled. "For you, nothing. Consider it a favor for old time's sake. Besides, when we win, they'll be paying all the legal fees." That night, for the first time in weeks, I slept peacefully. I was no longer alone in this battle. I had allies, I had rights, and I had the tools to defend myself. Michael had made a fatal mistake. By taking our family dispute into the legal arena, he had opened a door he could no longer close. On Saturday morning, as I ate breakfast on my patio and read the news on my phone, I smiled for the first time in days. In the local news section, there was a small article about a defamation lawsuit that had been filed the day before. It didn't mention names, but I knew it was referring to my case. The war had officially begun, but this time, I had the better weapons. The court summons arrived at Michael and Jessica's place on a Tuesday morning. Stephen had told me they would receive 3 documents: the defamation lawsuit, the request for a restraining order, and a notice that they had 72 hours to publicly retract the false statements about my mental health. I didn't have to wait long to see the results. At 2 in the afternoon, my phone rang. It was Michael, but his voice sounded completely different. It was no longer the arrogant tone of the past few weeks. It was pure panic. "Mom, what is this? Are you suing us?" "Yes," I replied with a calm that surprised me. "But we're family. You can't take us to court. You took me there first when you called the police with false reports. That was different. We were worried." "Worried? Or getting revenge because you can't use my house for free anymore?" Silence on the other end. "Michael," I continued, "you had the chance to resolve this like civilized adults. Instead, you chose to publicly defame me and use the authorities to harass me. Mom, please, drop the lawsuit and we can talk." "Number. The lawyer says we could go to jail. You should have thought about that before you lied about me in the newspaper. It was just one letter. I didn't think. You didn't think that lies have consequences? You didn't think that falsely accusing someone of dementia is a crime?" Michael started to cry on the phone. For the first time in months, I heard the little boy he used to be, scared and regretful. But it was too late for tears. "What do you want us to do?" "I want you to publish a full retraction in the same newspaper. I want you to admit that you lied about my mental health, and I want you to leave me alone forever. And if we do that, will you drop the lawsuit?" "Number. Why not?" "Because the damage is already done, Michael. Half the town thinks I have Alzheimer's because of you. My neighbors look at me differently. The lady at the grocery store talks to me like I'm a mental invalid." It was true. Since the letter came out, I had noticed the changes, the pitying glances, the conversations that stopped when I walked up, the way some acquaintances would talk to me very slowly and very loudly, as if I couldn't understand them. "Mom, I swear I didn't want this to happen." "No? Then what did you want to happen when you wrote that letter?" Silence again. "You wanted people to see me as a poor, crazy old woman who had lost her mind," I continued. "You wanted to generate pity so someone would convince me to let you come back. I just needed help. Well, you got the exact opposite." I hung up the phone and immediately called Stephen. "How do you feel?" my lawyer asked. "Powerful," I replied. "For the first time in years, I feel powerful." "Good, because the preliminary hearing is tomorrow, and you need to be strong." The hearing was a spectacle I'll never forget. Michael and Jessica showed up with a court-appointed lawyer who clearly hadn't prepared the case well. They sat in the back of the courtroom, she crying dramatically, he with his head down. Stephen presented all the evidence meticulously. The recordings of the false police calls. The officers' reports confirming the claims were baseless. Copies of the defamatory letter from the newspaper. Testimonies from Barbara and other neighbors about my perfectly normal mental state. The judge, an older man in his 60s, reviewed everything with a serious expression. "Mr. Miller," he finally said to Michael, "is it true that you called the police reporting that your mother had memory problems?" "Yes, Your Honor. But, and is it true that when the officers evaluated her, they found no signs of mental deterioration?" "Yes, but we thought." "And is it true that you later wrote a public letter claiming your mother suffers from Alzheimer's without any medical diagnosis to support it?" Michael remained silent. "Your Honor," the public defender interjected, "my client was acting in good faith, concerned for his mother's well-being." The judge looked at him with disbelief. Good faith? Publicly defaming a person is acting in good faith? Stephen stood up. "Your Honor, we request an immediate public retraction, payment for damages, and a permanent restraining order." "Granted." The judge said without hesitation, "Mr. Miller and his wife have 48 hours to publish a full retraction in the same newspaper. Furthermore, they will pay damages in the amount of $25,000 plus legal costs." $25,000. It was more money than I had seen in one place in years. "And Mr. Miller," the judge continued in a severe voice, "you are hereby forbidden from approaching your mother, contacting her directly or indirectly, or making any public statements about her. If you violate this order, you will face criminal charges." Michael slumped in his chair. Jessica moaned as if she'd been stabbed, but I felt like a 100-pound weight had just been lifted from my shoulders. When we left the courthouse, Stephen hugged me. "Helen, you've just won more than a lawsuit. You've just won back your dignity." He was right. For the first time in years, someone had listened to my side of the story and decided that I was right. That night, I celebrated alone in my house, with a glass of wine and the certainty that I had fought the most important battle of my life. And I had won. The retraction was published in the local paper that Friday. It was a full public apology, where Michael admitted that he had lied about my mental health, that I had never been diagnosed with any form of dementia, and that his statements had been the product of a poorly handled family conflict. He apologized to the community for the false information and to me for the harm caused. But more than the public apology, what really changed my life was what happened next. Barbara arrived that afternoon with a mysterious smile and an envelope in her hands. "Helen dear, this came for you." It was a letter from the management of a senior living community in the nicest part of town. They had read about my case in the newspaper and wanted to offer me a job as the social activities coordinator. "A job?" I asked in disbelief. "At 71 years old?" "Read the whole letter," Barbara insisted, her eyes shining. The offer was incredible. Not only was it a part-time job organizing events and activities for the retirement community, but it included a beautiful furnished apartment as part of the compensation package. It says here, they were looking for someone with experience in family organization and handling difficult situations, I read aloud. My case demonstrated exactly the kind of character and determination they need. "Are you going to accept?" Barbara asked me. The decision should have been difficult. It meant selling the house where I had lived for 30 years, where I had raised Michael, where I kept all my memories. But when I thought about it, I realized the house no longer held happy memories. The last 3 years had tainted every corner with humiliation and pain. "Yes," I said without hesitation, "I'm going to accept." The moving process was liberating in a way I never imagined. Every box I packed was a weight lifted from my heart. I donated most of the furniture, keeping only the things that truly mattered to me. The photos of Michael as a child, the books that had been with me for years, my mother's china. When a young couple with a baby came to see the house, I knew I had made the right decision. They looked at the place with the same hope I had felt 30 years ago. The house needed a family that would fill it with love, not resentment. My new apartment was small but perfect. 2 bedrooms, a balcony with a view of the park, a modern kitchen. And best of all, it was completely mine. No one could ever order me to sleep on the floor of my own home again. The job turned out to be a blessing I didn't know I needed. Organizing birthday parties, dance nights, book clubs, group outings. For the first time in decades, my energy was focused on making people happy, who genuinely appreciated me. Mrs. Miller, Arthur, an 80-year-old widower who had become my closest friend, would tell me, "You have a gift for making us all feel like family." Family. That word no longer hurt me like it used to. I had learned that family isn't always about the people who share your blood. Sometimes it's the people who choose to stay in your life because they value who you are. Barbara came to visit me every Sunday. We would cook together, go to the farmer's market, and laugh at absurd soap operas. She was the sister I never had and the companionship I had always needed. 6 months after the move, I received an unexpected call. It was Michael. "Mom." His voice sounded different, more mature, more tired. "Can we talk?" "Doesn't that violate the restraining order?" "I had it legally lifted. I needed to talk to you." I agreed to meet him at a neutral coffee shop, half an hour from my new home. When he arrived, I hardly recognized him. He looked gaunt, with deep-set dark circles and wrinkled clothes. Jessica wasn't with him. "Where's your wife?" I asked. "She left," he mumbled. "Took off with someone else when she realized we didn't have the money to support her. The money from the lawsuit? She spent it in a week. Clothes, salon appointments, expensive dinners. When it ran out and she had to get a real job, she decided I wasn't enough for her." I didn't feel any satisfaction hearing this. Only a deep sadness for the wasted time. "What do you want, Michael?" "I'm sorry," he whispered, his eyes filling with tears. "I want to apologize. You were right about everything. I was a horrible son. I treated you like my employee instead of my mother. And I want a chance to repair the damage. Not for you to support me or help me financially, just to get my mom back." I looked at him for a long moment. He was my son. My only son. But he was also the man who had humiliated me for years. "Michael," I finally said, "forgiveness doesn't erase the consequences. I can forgive you for being a bad son, but that doesn't mean I'll go back to being the mother I was before. I understand." "No, you don't. The mother I was before let people walk all over her. The woman I am now does not." We sat in silence. "If you want to try to rebuild a relationship with me," I continued, "it's going to be on my terms. We see each other when I want, where I want. And the first time you feel you can disrespect me, it's over forever." "I accept," he said immediately. "We're starting from scratch. You're not my baby who needs me to take care of him. I'm not your servant who exists to please you. We're two adults trying to get to know each other again." "Is there hope?" he asked, his voice breaking. I smiled for the first time in our conversation. "There's always hope, Michael. But now it's up to you to earn it." 6 months later, Michael and I have built a new relationship. It's not the classic mother-son relationship we had before. It's something better, a friendship between two adults who respect each other. He works 2 jobs to afford a small apartment. He comes to visit me once a week, and for the first time in his life, he asks me how I'm doing before he tells me about his problems. Today, sitting on my balcony watching the sunset, I know I made the right decisions. I reclaimed my dignity, my independence, and my right to be happy. At 71 years old, I finally learned the most important lesson of my life. True love never requires you to erase yourself as a person, and that lesson set me free forever. My daughter sent a text message saying they had decided to distance themselves from me. "Please, do not look for us anymore." Those were the exact words that appeared on my phone screen at 11:30 at night. I was in the kitchen washing the tea mug I had used to try and calm my insomnia. The phone vibrated on the table. I picked it up with wet fingers and read it. I read it twice, 3 times, as if reading it one more time would change what it said. "Mom, we decided that we are going to distance ourselves from you. Please, do not look for us anymore." Those were not the words of my daughter, Sarah. I knew that immediately. I recognized the tone. I recognized that polite cruelty that only one person could possess. David, my son-in-law, the man who entered our family 7 years ago with a perfect smile and promises that now sound like mockery. But there was the detail that broke me. Sarah had agreed to it. She did not write the message, but she allowed it. She approved it. She let her husband speak for her to tell me that they no longer wanted me in their lives. I stood in the middle of the kitchen, not knowing what to feel. I expected rage. I expected pain. I expected that knot in the throat that I had felt so many times before when something hurt me deeply. But none of that came. Instead, something colder arrived, clearer, a certainty that settled in my chest like a stone. This was not new. This had been happening for a long time, and I had been too foolish to see it. I wrote my reply without trembling. "No problem. I am going to cancel the automatic payments for your house and car. I will let you know when it is done." I pressed send and left the phone on the table. $1,200 every month. That was what I paid toward their mortgage. Ever since they moved into that house in the subdivision that they showed off so much on social media. $500 more for the gray SUV that David drove as if it were his by birthright. For years I had done it without thinking too much. Because they were my family. Because she was my daughter. Because that is how we mothers are. We sustain, we carry, we give without expecting anything in return. But that night I understood something. They did expect. they expected everything. And when I stopped being useful, when my presence became uncomfortable for their perfect life, they decided to delete me. I poured myself another cup of tea even though I knew I was not going to sleep. I sat by the window and looked at the empty street. The streetlights created yellow circles on the wet pavement. It had rained in the afternoon, and the air still smelled of damp earth. I tried to remember the last time Sarah came to visit me without excuses, without being in a rush, without that constant glancing at her watch that she always had when she was with me. I could not find that memory. All the recent moments were stained with something I could now name: discomfort, obligation, forced duty. I thought of my granddaughter, Lily, 4 years old, huge eyes, a laugh that filled any room. She used to run toward me every time she saw me, or at least she did before. Because in the last few months, the visits became scarce. There was always a reason. Lily has a fever. We have a commitment. David has to work. Reasons that sounded valid then. But now, under the light of that text message, they showed their true face. They were lies. Polite lies to keep me away without having to tell the truth. They were erasing me, little by little. They were removing me from their lives like someone erasing a name from a list. The phone vibrated again. It was Sarah. "Mom, you do not have to do that. We can talk." I read the message 3 times. "We can talk," after telling me to stay away, after closing the door on me without giving me a chance to ask what I had done wrong. Now they wanted to talk. Now that the money was at stake. Now that the consequences of their words were becoming real. I did not respond. I left the phone face down. I was not going to beg for a place in my own daughter's life. If they wanted to build their perfect American dream without me, they would do it without my money too. I got up and went to the small study where I kept my important papers. I opened the drawer and took out the folder with the documents. Bank statements. Transfer receipts. Years of payments. I ran my fingers over the papers. $48,000. Just in the last 3 years. Just in mortgage and car payments. Not counting gifts. Not counting emergencies. Not counting the money I lent that never came back. $48,000 to be erased with a text message. I sat on the floor with all those papers around me. And there, in the silence of my empty apartment, I finally understood something I should have seen a long time ago. I was not their mother. I was their bank. I was not Lily's grandmother. I was the source of funds that maintained their lifestyle. And when a source dries up or becomes inconvenient, it is abandoned. I looked at the photographs on the wall. Sarah as a child, Sarah at her graduation, Sarah on her wedding day in that white dress that I paid for, David by her side smiling, always smiling. At what moment did I lose my daughter? At what moment did she stop being mine and become an extension of him? The phone vibrated again. Another message. "Mom, please. David says we can fix this." David says, they were not even her own words. He spoke for her. He decided for her. He had turned her into a ventriloquist's dummy for his own cruelty. I picked up the phone and wrote a single word. No. That night I did not sleep. I stayed sitting in the armchair watching the darkness slowly turn into a gray dawn. I thought of all the moments I should have seen the signs, of all the times I justified the unjustifiable, because that is what mothers do. We forgive, we forget. We keep giving even if we no longer receive anything in return. But something had changed in me that night. I was no longer going to be the mother who accepts crumbs. I was no longer going to be the grandmother who waits for calls that never come. I was no longer going to pay for love that clearly did not exist. At 7 in the morning, I opened my computer. I logged into the banking system. I looked for the automatic payments, Sarah and David's house, Sarah and David's car. My finger hovered over the cancel button. Was I really going to do this? Was I really going to cut that cord that kept me tied to them, even if it was only financially? I pressed it. Cancelled. Cancelled. It was over. The following days were strangely silent. I expected more messages, more attempts to convince me, more manipulation disguised as concern. But nothing came, just silence. As if my decision to cut the money had also cut any interest they had in maintaining contact. That told me everything I needed to know. I started remembering things I had buried in some corner of my mind, small things that at the time I justified. things that now took on a completely different meaning. The first memory came one afternoon while I was making coffee. It was my birthday last year, 63 years old. I had prepared a special dinner. Nothing fancy, just my favorite food. I had set the table for 4 people. Me, Sarah, David, and little Lily. Sarah had promised to come. Of course, Mom. We will be there. At 7 o'clock sharp. I had cooked all afternoon. I made that roast chicken she loved as a child. I made mashed potatoes. I baked a chocolate cake. I put flowers in the center of the table. Flowers I bought with money I should have used for my medication. 7 in the evening. They did not arrive. 7:30. Nothing. 8. Silence. At 8:15 I got a message. Mom. Sorry. Lily has a fever. We are not going to be able to make it. Happy birthday. I stood staring at the set table, the food getting cold, the candles unlit. I told myself that kids get sick, that it was normal, that it was not personal. But 2 days later, I saw the photos on social media. Sarah, David, and Lily at an elegant steakhouse. Everyone smiling. Lily showing no sign of having been sick. The date of the post was the night of my birthday, the same night she supposedly had a fever. They lied to me, and I knew it. But I did what I always did. I swallowed it. I justified it. Maybe the post was old. Maybe she felt better quickly. Maybe. Another memory arrived. This one more painful. It was 6 months ago. I had undergone minor surgery, nothing serious, but I needed someone to pick me up from the hospital. I called Sarah 3 days before to let her know. Mom, of course, I will swing by for you. Do not worry. On the day of the surgery, I waited 2 hours sitting in the recovery room. The nurses kept asking me if they were coming for me. I said yes, that they were on their way. That traffic was probably heavy. I called Sarah. She did not answer. I called again. Nothing. I texted her. Nothing. Finally, a nurse offered to help me call a cab. I went home alone, dizzy from the anesthesia, scared, feeling so small and so invisible. Sarah wrote to me 5 hours later. Mom, sorry. A work meeting of David's ran late and we couldn't cancel. Did you get home okay? A work meeting of David's. Not even her own meeting. His. And that was more important than picking up her mother from the hospital, I replied. Yes. I got home fine. Do not worry. Do not worry. Always so understanding. Always so available to forgive. I remembered last Christmas. I had bought gifts for everyone. For Lily, I bought that doll she had asked for, $200. For Sarah, an expensive perfume she had mentioned, $150. For David, a designer shirt, $100. I wrapped them in nice paper. I put bows on them. I took them to their house 2 days before Christmas because they said they were going to spend the holidays with David's family. But we will see you later, Mom. We will call you. They did not call. I spent Christmas alone watching old movies on television. I ate leftovers from the dinner I prepared with the hope that maybe they would change their minds and come. On New Year's, I got a message. Happy New Year, Mom. Thanks for the gifts. Lily loved her doll. Thanks for the gifts. Not an apology for leaving me alone. Not an explanation. Just thanks for the gifts. The memories kept coming. Each one was like opening a wound that had healed poorly. Mother's Day, which they forgot until 3 days later. The time I got sick with the flu and they did not come to see me for 2 weeks. The calls I made that went to voicemail. The messages left unread. But the worst was social media. Because there, they did post. There, they did share their life. Photos of outings, of restaurants, of trips. A perfect life built with filters and fake smiles. And I never appeared. Not a single photograph with me. As if I did not exist. As if Lily's grandmother was a ghost. I remembered Lily's birthday 3 months ago. They threw a big party. I knew because I saw it posted. Balloons, clowns, a table full of food. Dozens of guests. They did not invite me. When I asked Sarah why she hadn't told me anything, her answer was simple. Oh, Mom. It was something small. Just close family. Close family. I was not close family. I was the grandmother, but I was not close family. That afternoon I looked at all the photos of the party they posted. I counted 18 adults, David's family, David's friends, David's parents, holding Lily, smiling for the camera. I was not there. And nobody noticed my absence. Or maybe they did notice it. Maybe it was exactly what they wanted. A celebration without me. I wondered how many other celebrations I had missed without knowing. How many times they met and decided not to invite me. How many times I was the topic of conversation. Don't tell your mom. Let's not invite your mom. Your mom is too. Too what? Too what was I that I deserved this treatment? I kept remembering. Each memory was a piece of a puzzle that was finally starting to take shape. A clear pattern of exclusion, of lies, of indifference disguised as busyness. The time I needed help moving a heavy piece of furniture, and Sarah said David had to work. But that night I saw them dining at a restaurant, according to their posts. The time I asked if they could accompany me to an important doctor's appointment because I was nervous. Mom, we have plans just that day. But they never told me what plans. The time I made food and took it to them because Sarah mentioned she was too tired to cook. David opened the door. He took the containers. He thanked me and closed the door. He didn't even let me in. He didn't even offer for me to come in for 5 minutes. All those moments I swallowed in silence, that I filed away as misunderstandings, that I forgave because that is a mother's love. But it was not love. It was habit. It was convenience. It was having me available for when they needed me but invisible when they didn't. I realized something terrible. It had been more than a year since I hugged my granddaughter. More than a year since I entered their house. More than a year since our meetings were in neutral places. Fast food coffee shops. Parks where Sarah checked her watch every 10 minutes. They had been pushing me away so gradually that I didn't realize it until I was completely out. And the worst of all, what hurt me the most, is that I had paid for my own exile. Every bank transfer, every expensive gift, every emergency, solved with my money. I financed the life they used to exclude me. I paid for the house where I was not welcome. I paid for the car they used to not come see me. I paid for the lifestyle that allowed them to forget about me. That night, I opened an old notebook. I started to write, not for therapy, not to vent. I wrote a list of every lie, every exclusion, every broken promise, every moment they made me feel like a burden. The list filled 3 pages of evidence that my daughter had stopped being my daughter a long time ago, and I had been too blind to see it. I spent a whole week without leaving my apartment. It was not depression. It was something different. It was clarity. A clarity so intense it almost hurt. I sat in front of the window every morning with my coffee and watched the world go on. People went to work. Children went to school. Life continued as always. But I had changed. Something inside me had broken, or maybe it had been fixed. I wasn't sure yet. Sarah did not write again after that. We can talk. David didn't either. The silence was deafening and revealing. It confirmed what I already knew. Without money, there was no reason to maintain contact. One afternoon the doorbell rang. My heart gave a stupid jump. I thought maybe it was Sarah. That maybe she had come to talk for real, to explain, to apologize. It was the mailman with a package I had ordered the previous week. Nothing more. I laughed at myself. I still had hope. After all, after seeing the pattern so clearly, a part of me still hoped that my daughter would appear at that door. That hope was dangerous. I knew it. But I couldn't extinguish it completely. Not yet. I started doing something I had never done before. I reviewed my finances completely. Not just the payments to Sarah and David. Everything. Every expense. Every income. Every dollar that came in and went out of my life. The numbers left me frozen. My pension was $1,300 a month. Additionally, I worked part-time at a fabric store, earning another $600, $1,900 in total. Of those $1,900, I paid $800 for rent on my apartment, $200 for utilities, $300 for food for myself, $100 for transportation, $150 for medication, because I had high blood pressure and thyroid problems. That left $350. But I was paying $1,700 between their house and car. The numbers didn't add up. How had I been doing this? Where did the missing money come from? I looked further back. I found the answer. Credit cards. 3 credit cards that I had been filling up little by little. A debt of $18,000 that grew every month with interest I couldn't pay. I had gone into debt to support them, to pay for their comfortable life while I ate beans and rice most of the month, while I stopped buying new clothes, while I postponed fixing the tooth that hurt because the dentist cost too much. $18,000 of debt. For a daughter who sent me a message telling me to stay away. I felt something break inside me. But it wasn't sadness, it was rage. A cold and calculated rage I had never felt before. They had used me, completely, and I had allowed it. Even worse, I had gone into debt so they could keep using me. That night I made a decision. I was not going to continue being a victim. I was not going to keep crying for crumbs of attention. I was not going to keep waiting for my daughter to remember she had a mother. But I wasn't going to scream either. I wasn't going to make a scene. I wasn't going to beg for explanations. I was going to observe. I was going to wait. I was going to see what they did now that the money was cut off. The first 3 days, nothing happened. On the 4th day, I received a call, not from Sarah, from David. I let it ring until it went to voicemail. I listened to the message. Margaret, we need to talk. I think there was a misunderstanding. Sarah is very affected by all this. Call me when you can. It's important. His voice was smooth, conciliatory, the voice of someone who knows they need something and is willing to fake whatever is necessary to get it. I did not return the call. The next day, another call, another message. Margaret, we really need to resolve this. We are family. We cannot let pride separate us. Pride. He blamed me for pride, as if I had been the one who sent the rejection message, as if I had been the one who put up the walls. I didn't return that call either. On the 3rd day, Sarah called. This time I did answer. I needed to hear her voice. I needed to confirm something. Mom, tell me. Mom, why aren't you answering David's calls? He's worried. I have nothing to talk about with David. There was a pause. I could hear her breathing. Mom, I know things got difficult, but we can't go on like this. What is it that we can't go on with, Sarah? Another pause. Longer. This fight. This distance. You asked for distance. I only respected it. It wasn't literal, Mom. You didn't have to cancel everything. There it was. The real problem. Not the emotional distance. The money. Do you miss me or do you miss the payments? Mom, that's not fair. Not fair? What part isn't fair, Sarah? The part where you told me to stay away, or the part where you expected me to keep paying even though you didn't want me around? It's not like that. You don't understand. Explain it to me then. Explain to me how I should understand it. Silence. A long and heavy silence. David says what? I don't want to know what David says. I want to know what you say, with your own words, without him telling you what to think. It's not like that, Mom. You're exaggerating. You wrote that message. What? The message where you told me to stay away. You wrote it. David wrote it. But I agreed. Why? Why? Because things were complicated. What things? Mom, I can't talk about this right now. David is here. David is always there. David always has something to say. But you, Sarah, what do you want? I want things to go back to normal. Normal was me, paying for everything, and you seeing me when it was convenient for you. It's not like that. When was the last time you came to see me without needing something? Silence again. When was the last time you invited me to your house? Nothing. When was the last time you let me see my granddaughter for more than 30 minutes? Mom, enough. You're right. Enough. That's why I canceled everything. You can't do this. I already did. Mom, we depend on that help. We can't pay for the house without you. She stopped herself. She realized what she had just said. But it was too late. I had already heard it. We depend on that help. Not on me. On the help. On the money. That was what mattered to them. I understand perfectly, Sarah. No, wait. I didn't mean. Yes, you did. And it's okay. Now is exactly where we stand. Mom, please, we can fix this. It's already fixed. You have your distance. I have my money. Everything is in order. This is David's fault, right? Do you think he manipulates me? Does he manipulate you? No. He takes care of me. He knows what is best for us. Those words hurt me more than the original message. My daughter had disappeared. In her place was a woman who let her husband think for her, decide for her, keep her away from her own mother. If he knows what is best, then you don't need me. Mom, take care, Sarah. I hung up before she could respond, before she could keep trying to manipulate me with guilt, before my own voice cracked. I stayed sitting with the phone in my hand. I was trembling, but not from fear or sadness. It was from contained rage, from years of swallowing everything, from decades of putting others first. Something had changed in that call. Sarah had said it clearly. We depend on that help. It wasn't that they missed me. It was that they missed my money. And David. That man had absolute control over my daughter. Sarah couldn't even have a conversation with me without mentioning him, without him being there, without asking for his approval. When had this happened? When had my independent daughter turned into an echo of her husband? I started thinking about David more carefully, about how he had entered our lives, about how everything had changed after him. Sarah was different before. We talked every day. She visited me. She included me in her life. And then David arrived. Handsome, charming, with that smile that seemed perfect. At first, everything was fine. But little by little things changed. The visits became spaced out. The calls got shorter. And when they needed something from me, it was always David who casually mentioned how much life cost, how much a little support would help. I gave because I thought I was helping my daughter. But now I saw the truth. I wasn't helping my daughter. I was financing my own estrangement. That night, I didn't sleep well. I had strange dreams. In one of them, David appeared with another face, a face I didn't recognize. In another, Sarah was crying, but I couldn't reach her. I woke up at 5 a.m. with a cold certainty installed in my chest. Something wasn't right with David, something beyond being controlling or manipulative. There was something about him that didn't fit. Something I had ignored because I wanted to believe my daughter was happy. I decided I was going to investigate. I didn't know what I was looking for yet, but I was going to find it. 3 days after that call with Sarah, I received a visit that would change everything. It was a Tuesday afternoon. I was organizing old papers, trying to keep my mind occupied on something other than my daughter's absence. The doorbell rang. This time I wasn't expecting anything. I opened the door and found a man of about 50 years old standing there. Gray suit, black briefcase, serious expression but not threatening. Mrs. Margaret Muniz. Yes, that's me. My name is Frank Miller. I am a private investigator. May I come in? I have important information about your son-in-law, David. My heart stopped for a second. Private investigator? Information about David? Who had hired an investigator? Who sent you? No one sent me to you specifically, but I have information that I think you should know. Please, I only asked for 10 minutes. Something in his look made me trust him. Or maybe it was that I was already looking for answers and he appeared with them. I let him in. We sat in the small living room. He put the briefcase on his knees, but didn't open it yet. Mrs. Muniz, how long have you known David? 7 years. Since he started dating my daughter. What do you know about his life before meeting Sarah? I stopped to think. The truth is, I knew very little. David had always been vague about his past. He said his family lived far away, that he didn't have much contact with them, that he had worked various jobs before settling down. Not much, I admitted, but it never seemed important. He seemed like a good man. Frank nodded as if he expected that answer. Mrs. Muniz, David is not who he says he is. Or, rather, he has a past that he has carefully hidden. He opened the briefcase and took out a folder. He put it on the table between us. 6 months ago, a lady named Barbara Jenkins hired me to investigate David. Barbara is the mother of a woman named Emily. David was married to Emily 9 years ago. Married. The word came out of my mouth like a whisper. But Sarah is his first wife. He told us he had never been married before. He lied. David was married to Emily for 3 years. They lived in another city. He did exactly the same thing. He got close to a family, convinced Emily that he was the perfect man. Little by little, he isolated her from her mother. He convinced Barbara to invest in businesses that never existed. He asked her for loans, access to bank accounts. I felt the air escaping from my lungs. And what happened? One day he disappeared. He took all the money he could. He left Emily with nothing, with debts that were not hers. Barbara lost her life savings, $60,000. $60,000. The figure resonated in my head. I had given him almost $50,000 in 3 years. Was David going to disappear too? Was that his plan? Why are you coming to tell me this now? Because I have been following David for months. Barbara wants justice. She wants to recover some of what she lost. But above all, she wants him not to do the same to another family. When I discovered that he had married again, that he had a daughter, that there was another older woman who was probably helping them financially, I knew I had to warn you. He took another paper from the folder. A photograph. This is David with Emily. 10 years ago. I looked at the photograph. It was him. Younger. But it was him. The same smile. The same eyes. Next to him, a pretty dark-haired woman. They looked happy, just like Sarah and David in their photos. There is more, Frank continued. David is not really named David. His real name is Robert Vance. He has used several names, several aliases. He is a professional con artist. He specializes in vulnerable women and their families. He builds trust. He gets married. He isolates the woman from her family. He gets access to the money, and when there is nothing left to take, he disappears. Robert Vance. Even his name wasn't real. The man who had been in my house, who had held my granddaughter, who called me Mom with that perfect smile. He was a professional liar. My daughter is in danger. Not physically. David is not violent, but she is in financial and emotional danger. He probably already has debts in her name. He probably already has access to everything she owns. And when he feels he can't get any more, he will leave. He will leave Sarah destroyed, without money, probably with enormous debts. And she won't even know what happened until it is too late. I put my hands to my face. My daughter. My little girl was trapped with a con artist, with a professional liar, and I hadn't seen anything. How did I not realize? Because he is very good at what he does. He has been doing this for years. Barbara didn't realize either until it was too late. The mother before Barbara didn't either. I found 2 other cases. David has done this at least 5 times that I know of. 5 times. 5 destroyed families. And mine was the 6th. What can I do? Frank leaned forward. We need solid proof of fraud. Documents. Bank transfers. Anything that proves he obtained money through deception. I have information from the previous cases, but I need to connect it to what he is doing now. Do you have access to financial documents? Contracts? Something he has signed. I thought quickly. I have the receipts for the transfers I made. I have some emails where he mentioned emergencies, needs. It was always him who wrote asking for help, even though it came in Sarah's name. That works. Anything else? House documents? Car? The house and the car are in both their names, Sarah and David. But I paid directly. I have all the bank statements. Perfect. I need copies of everything. I also need you to tell me everything you remember about what your relationship with David was like. Every time he asked for money, every promise he made, every lie that seems suspicious to you now. We spent the next 2 hours going over everything. I told him about the progressive distancing, about how David was always present when Sarah talked to me, about how the requests for money increased, but the visits decreased. Frank took notes meticulously. All this fits his pattern. He isolates the victim from her family of origin, especially from maternal figures, because they are the ones most likely to notice that something is wrong. He maintains the flow of money, but reduces personal contact to prevent discovery. And the message? The one they sent me telling me to stay away. That is new. In the previous cases, he wasn't so direct. It probably means he is in the final phase, that he is already preparing his exit. He wanted to cut off contact completely, so that when he disappears, you cannot intervene quickly. But then, I canceled the payments. That ruined his plan. Probably. That's why David is calling you. He needs the money to keep flowing a little longer while he finishes preparing his escape. My estimate is that he has between 2 and 4 weeks before disappearing. 2 to 4 weeks. My daughter had less than a month before her life exploded into pieces. I have to warn her. I have to tell Sarah. Frank shook his head. If you tell her now, David will know immediately. He has her so controlled that she will probably tell him everything. He will deny it. He will say it is a lie, that you are trying to separate them. And then he will disappear before we can build a solid case. Sarah will be left without any way to recover anything. So what do? Let him continue with her. We let him think he is in control. Meanwhile, we gather evidence. We build a case. And when we have everything, we confront him in a way he cannot escape. With police, with lawyers, in a way that Sarah has to see the truth even if she doesn't want to. I felt a knot in my stomach. The idea of leaving my daughter with that man one more day turned my insides. But Frank was right. If I acted on impulse, David would disappear and Sarah would never believe me. How much time do you need? Give me a week, maybe 2. I need to verify some things. Talk to Barbara and the other victims. Prepare solid documentation. Can you do that? Can you wait without saying anything to Sarah? I nodded, even though every fiber of my being wanted to run to my daughter's house and get her out of there. Frank took a card from his briefcase. This is my number. Call me if anything urgent happens. If David does something suspicious. If Sarah comes to see you. Anything. And please, do not tell anyone else about this yet. Why are you helping me? Barbara is paying for this. Barbara reopened the initial investigation. But this is no longer just work. I have seen what this man does. I have seen the families he destroys, the women he leaves broken. If I can stop him this time, if I can prevent another family from going through the same thing Barbara went through, then it is worth it. He stood up to leave. At the door he stopped. Mrs. Muniz, your daughter is lucky to have you. Even though she doesn't see it now, you are saving her. I closed the door after he left and stood in the hallway. My legs were trembling. I sat on the floor with my back against the wall. My son-in-law was a liar, a con artist, a man who had destroyed families before and was about to destroy mine. And my daughter had no idea. She was so blind, so controlled, that she would probably defend David if I told her the truth. I looked at the folder Frank had left on the table, full of evidence, of stories of other women, of other mothers who had gone through exactly the same thing as me. I felt something grow inside me. It wasn't just rage. It was determination. A cold and calculated determination. David had chosen the wrong family this time. Because I was not going to let him get away with it. I was not going to let him destroy my daughter and disappear into the night. I was going to stop him. And I was going to do it right. The following days were the hardest of my life. Knowing the truth and not being able to do anything with it was consuming me from the inside. Every time the phone rang, my heart raced, thinking it might be Sarah, saying David had disappeared. Frank called me on the 3rd day. I need you to come to my office. There is someone who wants to meet you. I took 2 buses to get there. Frank's office was in an old building downtown. 3rd floor, no elevator. When I entered, there was a woman sitting waiting. She looked about 60, gray hair tied back, tired but determined eyes. Margaret, this is Barbara Jenkins. The woman stood up and extended her hand. I took it. Her fingers were cold. I am sorry you have to go through this, Barbara said. Her voice trembled slightly. I know exactly how it feels. The 3 of us sat down. Frank put a box on the desk. Barbara brought more documentation. Things she hadn't shown me before because they were very personal. But when she knew David had done the same thing again, she decided it was necessary. Barbara opened the box. It was full of papers, photographs, receipts, letters. My daughter Emily was a smart woman, Barbara began. She worked as a nurse. She had her own apartment. She was independent. And then she met David, or Robert, or whatever he really calls himself. She took out a photograph, Emily smiling next to David. They looked in love, like Sarah and David in their photos. At first, everything was perfect. He was charming, attentive. He treated her like a queen. 6 months later, they got married. I thought it was fast, but Emily was happy. Who was I to say anything? Her voice cracked a little. She took a breath before continuing. Shortly after, the changes began. Emily stopped visiting me as much. When I called her, David was always there. Always on speakerphone. Always listening. When I asked if we could talk alone, Emily said there were no secrets between them. I knew that story. It was mine. It was Sarah's story. Then the requests for money started. First, small ones. A loan to fix the car. $500. Then to pay an unexpected debt. $1,000. Then to invest in a business David was starting. $5,000. Barbara took out bank documents. Transfers. Checks. Everything documented meticulously. In 2 years, I gave him $43,000. I sold my mother's house that I had inherited. I emptied my retirement savings, all because I believed I was helping my daughter build her future. And the business? I asked. It never existed. Nothing David said was real. The papers he showed me were fake. The addresses were empty buildings. The partners he mentioned didn't exist. Everything was a lie. Frank intervened. I have verified the documents. David has experience in forgery. He has created shell companies. Fake legal documents. It is part of his methodology. Everything looks legitimate until you investigate thoroughly, Barbara continued. One day, I went to visit Emily without warning. Something told me I needed to see her. When I arrived at the house, it was empty. Completely empty. The neighbors told me they had left 2 days before. A moving truck took everything. She didn't tell you. Nothing. Not a call. Not a message. I tried to contact her for weeks. Her phone was disconnected. Her social media deleted. It was as if she had disappeared from the planet. Tears began to roll down her cheeks. 3 months later, I received a call from a hospital. Emily was there. Alone. Destroyed. David had left her in another city. Without money, without a job, with $30,000 in credit card debt that he had taken out in her name. I felt my stomach turn. That was what awaited Sarah. How is Emily now? She is alive. She is working, but she has never been the same. The depression almost killed her. She had to declare bankruptcy. She lost years rebuilding her life. And the relationship with me was also damaged. She blamed me for not having seen the signs, for having trusted David, even though I was also a victim. Frank put another folder on the table. There are more cases. I have found 4 more besides Emily. All similar stories, all with the same pattern. He opened the folder. More photographs, more documents, more women who had believed in David, more destroyed families. This is Tanya. David was with her 12 years ago. He got $22,000 out of her before disappearing. This is Jessica. 15 years ago, $35,000. Before that, there are indications of at least 2 more cases, but I don't have complete documentation. I looked at the photographs. All different women, but all with the same expression in the photos with David. Happiness, trust, love. How is it possible that he keeps doing this? Why has no one stopped him? Because he is careful, Frank explained. He changes cities. He changes names. He waits a few years between each case. And, above all, he knows how to manipulate the legal system. Technically, what he does might not be completely illegal. They are family loans, voluntary investments. There are no contracts that say he must return the money. The debts are in the women's names, but they signed them voluntarily even if they didn't know what they were signing. So we can't do anything legally? I didn't say that. We can. But we need proof of intentional fraud. We need to prove he used fake identities, that he forged documents, that he planned everything from the beginning. With that, we can go to the police. We can build a criminal fraud case. Barbara leaned forward. That is why we need your help. Margaret, you still have access. You can still get information. If you work with us, we can stop him before he does to Sarah what he did to Emily. What do you need me to do? Frank took out a list. First, I need you to document everything. Every interaction with David. Every request for money. Every promise he made. Second, if possible, I need you to get access to documents, house papers, car papers, any contract David has signed. Third, I need you to maintain contact. Do not cut it off completely. If he suspects we are investigating him, he will disappear. You want me to talk to them again? After everything. I know it is difficult, but it is the only way. If you can resume contact without raising suspicions, we can buy time. Barbara took my hand. I know what I am asking of you. I know it hurts. But think of your daughter. Think of your granddaughter. If David disappears now, Sarah will be left with all the debts, with the house she can't pay for, with destroyed credit, and probably pregnant or with another child that David will have used to tie her down more. That last part hit me. Pregnant. It is part of his pattern. Emily was pregnant when he disappeared. She lost the baby from the stress. Tanya was also pregnant. David uses children as a form of control, as a way to get more money, as a way to make families invest more in the relationship. I felt like I couldn't breathe. Sarah could be pregnant. David could be planning to leave her with another child, with more responsibilities, with more debts. I will do whatever is necessary. Frank nodded. Good. So this is what we are going to do. You are going to call Sarah. You are going to say you have thought things over, that maybe you reacted badly, that you want to talk. You are not going to mention anything about money yet. You just want to reconnect. And if David suspects, David is going to think he won. He is going to think you broke, that you need your family more than you need your money. He is going to lower his guard, and when he does, we are going to get what we need. We spent the next 2 hours planning every detail. Frank gave me a small burner phone. Use this to communicate with me, not from your normal phone. David could be checking Sarah's messages. If she has access to your phone, he does too. Barbara gave me a hug before leaving. Thank you for doing this. I know she is your daughter and it must be horrible, but you are saving her. Even if she doesn't know it now, you are saving her. That night I sat in front of my phone for an hour before dialing. I rehearsed what I was going to say, how I was going to sound. I had to be convincing. I had to make Sarah believe I had given in. Finally, I dialed. Sarah answered on the third ring. Mom, hello my love. We can talk. There was a pause. Of course. Wait. I heard movement. A door closing. Okay, I'm alone. She was lying. I bet David was there, listening. But I kept going. I have been thinking a lot about everything. About the message. About what happened. And I think maybe I reacted badly. Really? Her voice sounded hopeful, almost desperate. Really? You are my daughter. Lily is my granddaughter. I don't want to lose you over pride. Oh, Mom, I don't want that either. I miss you so much. Could we see each other? Maybe this week? I could make the food you like. Or if you prefer, I can come see you. Yes, yes. I would love that. Let me talk to David and I will confirm what day. There it was. Let me talk to David. She couldn't even accept an invitation from her mother without his permission. Perfect, my love. I love you. I love you too, Mom. I hung up and stared at the phone. The trap was set. Now I just had to wait for David to bite the hook. Sarah called me the next day. Mom, how about Saturday? We can come to your house for lunch. David wants to talk to you too. He says we need to clear everything up as a family. Of course, David wanted to talk. He wanted to make sure the money started flowing again. He wanted to control the conversation. He wanted to manipulate me face to face. That sounds perfect, my love. What time? 1 o'clock is fine. Perfect. I'll wait for you here. When I hung up, I called Frank from the phone he had given me. They are coming on Saturday. David, Sarah, and the girl. Excellent. Now listen carefully. During that meal, you need to do several things. First, keep calm. Be nice, but not too nice. You have to seem like you gave in, but with dignity. Second, observe everything David does and says. Every detail matters. Third, if possible, get David to sign something. Anything. A receipt for money borrowed. A thank you note. Something with his signature. And how do I do that without raising suspicions? Tell him your accountant needs documentation for taxes. That the bank asked to justify the large transfers. Invent something that sounds bureaucratic and boring. David will want to cooperate to keep you calm. I spent the next 3 days preparing everything. It wasn't just a meal. It was an operation. Every detail had to be perfect. I cooked the roast chicken Sarah liked. I made rice and beans, fresh salad. I made flan for dessert because it was Lily's favorite. I set the table with the nice tablecloth I used only on special occasions, but I also prepared other things, documents I needed David to sign, a simple receipt that said, I acknowledge having received financial assistance from Margaret Muniz for a total of $48,000 over the last 3 years for housing and transportation expenses. I drafted it to look like just an administrative formality. Nothing threatening. I also prepared my phone. Frank had taught me how to activate the recorder discreetly. Everything said at that meal would be recorded. Saturday arrived. I got up early, even though I had slept little. Nerves had kept me awake since 5 in the morning. I showered. I dressed in simple but presentable clothes. I put on light makeup. I needed to look like the loving mother who had given in, not the woman investigating her son-in-law. At 1 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. I breathed deeply. I opened the door. Sarah entered first with Lily by the hand. The girl ran toward me. "Grandma!" I picked her up and hugged her. Her small, warm body against mine reminded me why I was doing all this. For her, for Sarah, for the family we could still be if I managed to get David out of our lives. "Hello, my love, how have you been?" "Good. You made flan." "Of course I did." David entered behind Sarah. He was carrying a bottle of wine. Perfect smile. "Margaret, thanks for having us. I know things have been tense." It was hard to look at him knowing what I knew. Seeing that face I had seen in photographs with other women, hearing that voice that had lied to so many families. But I smiled. "Come in, David. Lunch is almost ready." We sat at the table. Lily between Sarah and me. David across. I served the food while we made superficial conversation. The weather, traffic, unimportant things. David ate with appetite. "You cook deliciously, Margaret. Sarah always says no one cooks like you." "It's the love I put into it," I replied, looking at Sarah. She smiled. A tired smile. I noticed circles under her makeup. She had lost weight. She looked exhausted. After the meal, while Lily played in the living room with some toys I had kept from when Sarah was a child, the moment came to talk. David cleared his throat. "Margaret, I want you to know I am very sorry about how things turned out. The message you received didn't really reflect what we felt." Liar. I knew every word of that message had been calculated, but I nodded as if I believed him. "I wrote it," he continued. "And maybe I was too harsh, but it's just that Sarah was very stressed. She felt there was a lot of pressure, a lot of expectation, and I thought maybe a little space would be good for all of us." "Pressure from what?" I asked softly. Sarah intervened. "Mom, you have always been so generous, so present. Sometimes I felt I couldn't measure up, that I owed you so much I could never pay you back." There it was, David's script coming out of Sarah's mouth. He had convinced her that my love was a debt. My help was pressure. My presence was a burden. "My love, I never expected you to pay me back anything. I did it because you are my daughter. Because I wanted to help. I know. But even so, sometimes it is difficult." Her voice cracked a little. David put his hand on her shoulder, a gesture that seemed comforting but I now viewed as control. "I understand," I said, "and I respect that you need your space. But canceling the payments was my way of respecting that distance. If you didn't want my presence, it didn't seem right to stay financially involved." David tensed slightly. There it was, the real reason for this visit. "About that," he said with a careful voice, "we understand your point. But the reality is that those payments were part of our budget. We counted on them. Canceling them so suddenly put us in a complicated situation." "Complicated how?" "We have commitments, the mortgage, the car, Lily's expenses. My business is at a stage where I need to invest everything I earn. I can't divert funds now." His business. Frank had told me no business existed. It was just another lie to justify why he never had his own money. "And what do you propose?" David leaned forward. "Look, I understand you felt hurt. You have the right. But we are family. Families support each other. If you could consider reinstating the payments, at least temporarily while we stabilize things, we would appreciate it very much. And of course, we are going to make a better effort to keep in contact. More visits, more calls, more visits in exchange for more money." The deal was clear. And surely the visits would last only until the money flowed again. Afterwards, we would return to the same pattern. "I need to think about it," I said. "It has been a difficult few weeks for me too. But before making any decision, there is something I need." "What thing?" David asked. "My accountant called me. He says he needs documentation of the large transfers I have made. For tax purposes. I need you to sign a simple document confirming the amounts I have given you and what they were for. I saw a flash of something in David's eyes. Suspicion, worry? But he recovered quickly. Sure, no problem. Do you have the document? I went to my room and took out the paper I had prepared. I passed it to him with a pen. David read it. His eyes scanned every line. I could see his mind working, calculating if signing it was dangerous. It is a lot of money, he said finally. 48,000 in 3 years. Yes, it is. I hadn't realized it was so much. Liar. He knew exactly how much it was, probably had calculated it down to the last cent. Is there any problem signing? I asked with a calm voice. No, it's just that. This is for your accountant, right? It's not going anywhere else. Just for my files. As I said, they are tax requirements, nothing more. David looked at Sarah. She nodded slightly. He took the pen and signed, his full name. David Solis, another lie captured on paper. But it was his signature, his acknowledgement of the money received. Thank you, I said, carefully putting the paper away. Now let me think about the other thing. I can't promise you anything yet, but I am going to consider it. How much time do you need? David's voice had a tone of urgency he tried to disguise. A week, maybe 2. I need to check my finances too. See what is possible. He didn't like that answer, but he couldn't push more without showing desperation. The rest of the visit was more relaxed. We played with Lily, we drank coffee, we ate flan. Sarah told me about Lily's school, about her new words, her new games. We talked like a normal family, but I couldn't forget the performance. The lies under every word, the manipulation under every one of David's smiles. When they left, Sarah hugged me at the door. Thanks, Mom, for giving this another chance. Always, my love, always. David gave me a hug too. Brief, calculated. See you soon, Margaret. I closed the door and waited until I heard the car pull away. Then I took out the phone Frank had given me and called him. How did it go? I have the signature. He acknowledges the $48,000. And the whole conversation was recorded. Perfect. Did you notice anything suspicious? He hesitated before signing. He asked several times what the document was for. He is nervous. Good. That means he knows he is on dangerous ground. He mentioned something about leaving, travel, changes. Not directly, but he talked about his business, that he needs to invest everything there. That could be his excuse to justify moving money. Exactly. He is probably preparing his exit. I'm going to speed up the investigation. We have to move fast. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed awake listening to the recording over and over again. David's voice, his smooth lies, the way he manipulated every situation, the way he had turned my daughter into his puppet. But now I had something he didn't expect. I had proof. I had his signature. I had his voice, admitting dependence on the money. And I had a plan. David thought he had won. He thought I had softened. That soon the money would flow again, and everything would return to his control. He didn't know that every move he made now was being documented, every word analyzed, every lie catalogued. The trap was closing, and he had no idea. Frank called me 2 days after the lunch. Margaret, I need you to come to the office. We have everything ready. When I arrived, I found Frank with 2 other men. One wore a formal suit and carried a briefcase. The other was in a police uniform. Margaret, this is Detective Tom Chavez, and this is the lawyer handling Barbara's case against David. We sat around Frank's table. There were folders everywhere. Documents, photographs, years of evidence against a man who had ruined lives. Detective Chavez spoke first. Mrs. Muniz, we have been building a case against the man you know as David for several months. With the information you have provided, we finally have enough to act. What did you find? David, whose real name is Robert Vance, has a history going back 15 years, 6 different identities, 8 victims we have been able to document, forgery of documents, fraud, identity theft, tax evasion. The list is long. He put photographs on the table. David, with different names, in different cities, with different women. Always the same smile, always the same strategy. The most serious thing is that we found something recent. David has been taking out loans in Sarah's name. 3 credit cards she doesn't know exist. Total of $42,000 in debt. I felt the air leave me. $42,000. And rising. Interest accumulates daily. He also mortgaged the house without Sarah knowing. He forged her signature on the documents. He took out $70,000 that are no longer in any account we can trace. $70,000. My daughter was ruined and didn't even know it. When is he going to leave? Our analysis suggests in less than 2 weeks. He has been selling things. Furniture, electronics, everything he can turn into cash without raising suspicions. He has also been looking for plane tickets. We found searches on his computer for flights to South America. And Sarah? Is he taking her? The detective shook his head. No. According to the pattern, David disappears alone. He leaves the woman and children behind. He will probably invent an emergency, a work trip, something that sounds urgent, and he simply won't come back. My granddaughter, Lily, is going to stay with her mother. David doesn't take the children. They are part of the anchor, part of what keeps the women busy and without resources to search for him. The lawyer took the floor. Mrs. Muniz, this is what we are going to do. Tomorrow we are going to file formal charges against Robert Vance, alias David Solis. We are going to ask for an arrest warrant, and we are going to execute it at his house in front of Sarah. In front of her? We cannot arrest him anywhere else. I understand you want to protect her from the trauma, but Sarah needs to see this. She needs to see the police taking David away. She needs to hear the charges. She needs the illusion to break completely. Otherwise, he will find a way to contact her from wherever he is and will convince her that it is an injustice, that you planned it all, that he is the victim. Frank nodded. I have seen this before. If Sarah doesn't see with her own eyes that David is arrested legally, with real charges, with solid evidence, her mind will seek ways to justify it. She will want to believe him. She will want to think there is an explanation. And after the arrest? Afterwards, you will be there for her, the detective said. She will need you. She will be angry, confused. She will probably blame you at first. But with time, when she processes everything, she will understand that you saved her. When is it going to be? Tomorrow, at 9 inches the morning. David is usually home at that time. We need you to be there too. Me. Why? Because Sarah is going to need someone when this happens. She will be in shock. She will need someone to take charge of Lily while we process David. That someone has to be you. I spent that night without sleeping. I knew what was coming was going to break my daughter into 1,000 pieces. It was going to destroy the life she thought she had. It was going to force her to face that the last 7 years had been a lie. But I also knew it was the only way to save her. At 8 inches the morning, I arrived at Sarah's house. I knocked on the door. David opened. He seemed surprised to see me. Margaret, we didn't expect you. I came to talk to Sarah about what we discussed on Saturday. Ah, sure. Come in. Sarah was in the kitchen preparing Lily's breakfast. Mom, what a surprise. Good morning. My love, can we talk? Sure. Sit down. Do you want coffee? Please. David stayed in the living room, but I could feel his attention on us, trying to listen, trying to control the situation even from afar. So, did you think about what we talked about? Sarah asked with hope in her voice. Before I could answer, the doorbell rang, loud, insistent. David went to open it. I heard voices, loud, authoritative. Robert Vance. No, you're mistaken. I am David Solis. We have an arrest warrant for Robert Vance. We have confirmation that represents your real identity. You have the right to remain silent. Sarah jumped up. What is happening? She ran to the door. I followed her. In the doorway were 3 police officers. One of them was Detective Chavez. They had David, or Robert, handcuffed. What are you doing? Let him go. There is a mistake, Sarah shouted. Ma'am, your husband is being arrested for fraud, forgery, identity theft, and other charges. He has the right to get a lawyer. No, this is a mistake. David, tell them. David looked at me. In his eyes I saw something I had never seen before. Pure hate. He knew I was behind this. He knew I had caught him. Sarah, listen to me, he said with a calm voice. Too calm. This is a misunderstanding. Your mother is behind this. She planned everything because she doesn't want us to be happy. Don't believe them anything." "No," Sarah screamed. "Mom, tell them to stop. Tell them this is a mistake." Detective Chavez pulled out a folder. "Ma'am, your husband's name is not David Solis. His name is Robert Vance. He has used 6 different names in the last 15 years. He has scammed 8 families, and he has $42,000 of debt in your name that you probably don't know exists." "That is a lie," David said. "Sarah, don't believe them. It's a trap. He also mortgaged your house without your knowledge. He forged your signature. He took out $70,000 that disappeared, and we have evidence that he planned to abandon you and your daughter in less than 2 weeks." Sarah looked at me, her eyes full of tears, of confusion, of pain. "Mom, what did you do?" "I saved you," I said with a firm voice. "Even if you don't see it now, I saved you." "No. You destroyed my life. You destroyed my family." David was led toward the police car. He kept talking. "Sarah, don't believe them. Get a lawyer. I did nothing wrong. Your mother is lying. Barbara is lying. They are all lying. Barbara." He had said Barbara's name. Sarah heard it. "Who is Barbara?" No one answered. David was already in the car. The doors closed. They took him away. Sarah collapsed on the floor, crying, screaming. Lily came out of her room, scared by the noise. "Mommy, why are you crying?" I knelt next to Sarah. I tried to hug her, but she pushed me away. "Don't touch me. Don't touch me." "What did you do?" Lily started crying too. I picked her up. I hugged her even though she resisted wanting to go to her mother. Detective Chavez approached. "Mrs. Muniz, here are the documents. Everything your daughter needs to know is there. Case numbers, evidence, contacts. When she is ready to read, everything is documented." He passed a folder to Sarah. She didn't even look at it. She just cried with her face in her hands. The police left. The house fell silent except for Sarah's crying and Lily's sobs. "Sarah, my love, look at me. Leave. Get out of my house. I am not going to leave you alone now. I hate you. You ruined everything." He ruined it. Years ago, I just stopped him from continuing. "You're lying. David loves me. He loves us. David doesn't exist. That man's name is Robert, and he has done this to 8 other women before you." "No, it's not true." I picked up the folder from the floor. I opened it. I took out the photographs. Robert with different names, with different women, with different families. Look at them." Sarah looked up. She saw the photographs. Her face changed. The denial began to crack. "This is Emily. He was married to her 9 years ago. He took $60,000 from her family and left her with $30,000 in debt. This is Tanya. This is Jessica. This is another one. All believed he loved them. All believed they were special." Sarah took the photographs with trembling hands. She looked at them one by one. Tears fell on the paper. "No, it can't be. It is real, my love. Everything is real, and you were going to be the next on the list. But I love him. We have a daughter. We have a life. He doesn't love you. He never loved you. He only used you, like he used all the others." Sarah folded over herself. A sound came out of her throat. It wasn't crying. It was something deeper. It was the sound of a soul breaking. I sat on the floor next to her, with Lily still in my arms, and I waited. I waited for the shock to pass. I waited for reality to settle in. I waited for my daughter to need me. Hours passed. Lily eventually fell asleep in my arms. Sarah kept crying until she had no tears left, until only dry and silent sobs remained. Finally she spoke. Her voice was barely a whisper. "How long did you know?" 2 weeks. "Why didn't you tell me immediately? Because you wouldn't have believed me? Because he had you so controlled that you would have defended every lie? You needed to see the evidence. You needed the police to arrest him. You needed it to be undeniable. I have debts I don't know about. $42,000 in credit cards. He mortgaged the house. $70,000 that are gone. And all the money you gave me disappeared too, probably in accounts we can't trace." Sarah closed her eyes. "I am ruined. No, you are alive. You are free. And I am going to help you rebuild everything. I don't want your help. Your help was what got me into this. Those words hurt, but I understood them. Sarah needed to blame someone, and I was easier to blame than facing that she had lived a lie for 7 years. It's okay. When you are ready, I will be here. I got up carefully not to wake Lily. I put her in her bed. I went back to the living room. Sarah was still on the floor with the photographs scattered around. I am going to stay tonight. On the sofa. In case you need me. She didn't answer. But she didn't ask me to leave either. That night, lying on my daughter's sofa, I heard her sobs from her room. Every sound was a reminder of the pain I had caused to save her. But it was also proof that she was alive, that she was there, that we still had a chance to rebuild what David had destroyed. The truth had exploded, and now we had to live in the rubble. The first days after the arrest were the darkest. Sarah barely spoke, barely ate. She moved through the house like a ghost. I stayed there. I prepared food she didn't touch. I took care of Lily, who asked for her daddy every hour. Where is Daddy? Daddy had to go away. My love, when is he coming back? There was no easy answer for that question. On the third day, Sarah finally opened the full folder the detective had left. She sat at the kitchen table and read every page, every document, every testimony from the other women. I saw her face change with every revelation. Denial turned into shock, shock into horror, horror into understanding. There was another pregnant woman, she said with a hollow voice. Emily. She lost the baby when he left. I sat across from her. I know. Me. I was thinking about having another child. David said it would be good for Lily, that the family should grow. Her hands trembled on the paper. It was part of his plan, right? Another baby meant more money, more control. Probably. Sarah closed her eyes. I am so stupid. You are not stupid. You are human. You fell in love with who you thought he was, not with who he really was. How did I not see it? How did I not see anything? Because he is a professional. He has been doing this for years. He knows exactly how to manipulate, how to control, how to make everything seem normal until it is too late. Sarah took another page. It was the financial report. 42,000 inches debts I didn't know. 70,000 stolen from the house. And all the money you gave, gone. We are going to fix it. How? How do you fix this? Her voice rose in pitch. I have nothing. This house has a mortgage I can't pay. I have debts I didn't even sign for. My credit is destroyed. There are legal paths. The lawyer is already working on proving it was fraud. That you didn't know. That he forged your signature. And meanwhile? Meanwhile, how do I eat? How do I feed my daughter? I will help you. Sarah looked at me with eyes full of tears. I don't want more of your money. Your money was what got me into this. My money didn't get you into this. David did. I was just another victim of his plan. But if you hadn't paid so much, maybe he would have left sooner. Maybe it wouldn't have lasted 7 years. Maybe she was right. Maybe my generosity had prolonged the deception. But I couldn't change the past. I am sorry, I said. I am sorry for having been so blind. I am sorry for not having seen what he was before. I am sorry my help tied you to him for longer. Sarah cried. This time she let me hug her. She collapsed in my arms like when she was a child, like when she fell and ran to me to heal her wounds. I don't know how I am going to get out of this, Mom. Together, we are going to get out together. The next week, they brought Barbara. Sarah needed to hear from someone who had survived this, someone who had been exactly where she was now. They sat in the living room. Barbara took Sarah's hands. I know what you feel. The emptiness, the shame, the feeling that you were the biggest fool in the world. How did you get over it? One day at a time, I cried. I got angry. I blamed myself. But eventually I understood it wasn't my fault, that he was the problem, not me. Your daughter? Emily? She is fine now. She is alive. She works. She has a small apartment. She still goes to therapy, but she is rebuilding her life. And the relationship with me was repaired. It took time, but we fixed it. Now we talk. We see each other. There is no longer that wall between us. Sarah looked toward where Lily was playing. I am afraid of not being able to give her the life she deserves. The life she deserves is one with a present and honest mother. Not a mother trapped in lies, even if those lies come with money. You give her love. You give her truth. That is more than enough. After Barbara left, Sarah stayed quiet for hours. That night, when I put Lily to bed, Sarah came into the room. Mom, I need to tell you something. Tell me. I regret how I treated you. I regret excluding you. I regret the message. I regret everything. You were right about David. About everything. And I was so blind that I pushed you aside. It's over, my love. No, it's not over. I need you to know that I am sorry. I need you to know that during all those years, when I didn't call you, when I canceled plans, when I kept you away, a part of me knew something was wrong. But it was easier to distance myself from you than to face that maybe I had made a mistake marrying him. He manipulated you. It is not your fault, but I hurt you. And that is my fault. I hugged her. I forgive you. I always forgave you, even when it hurt. The following weeks were of slow reconstruction. The lawyer managed to prove fraud on the credit cards. The debts were eliminated from Sarah's record. The mortgage was more complicated. Sarah would have to sell the house. There was no way to pay for it alone. I am going to look for a small apartment, she said. Something I can pay with my nurse's salary. And meanwhile, can we, Lily and I, stay with you? Just until I find something. This is your house. It always was. We packed Sarah's things. Only the essentials. Clothes, Lily's toys, photographs. We left everything else behind. Everything David had touched. Everything that was part of that fake life. The day they moved into my small apartment, Lily ran through the rooms excited. I am going to live with Grandma. Yes, my love. Forever. For a while. Sarah and I shared my room. Lily had the small study I used to store things. We turned it into her space. We painted the walls light colors. We put her toys, her books, her small bed. It was tight. It was uncomfortable sometimes, but it was real. It was honest. It was true family. Sarah got extra shifts at the hospital. I kept working at the fabric store. Between the two of us, we covered expenses. There wasn't much left over. There were no luxuries. But there was peace. There was truth. There was unconditional love. One night, 3 months after the arrest, Sarah came into the kitchen where I was making dinner. Mom, I went to court today, and David, or Robert, or whatever he is really called, pleaded guilty. In exchange for a reduced sentence, 5 years in prison. How do you feel? I don't know. I thought I would want to see him suffer more, but I just feel relief. 5 years without having to worry about him appearing. 5 years to completely rebuild my life. And after the 5 years, afterwards there will be a restraining order. He won't be able to get close to us. And by then, Lily will be older. I will be stronger. He will no longer have power over me. Sarah sat at the table. The lawyer says we might recover some of the money. Not all, but something. They are tracing accounts. Hidden assets. The money doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me anymore either. Before I thought money was security, that I needed to have a lot to be okay. But now I know real security is different. It is knowing who you are. It is having real people by your side. It is living without lies. Lily came running in. Mommy, Grandma, look what I made. She was holding a drawing. 3 figures holding hands. Her, Sarah, and me. It is our family, she said proudly. Sarah hugged her. Yes, my love, this is our family. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Sarah and I sat on the small balcony of the apartment with hot tea. Thank you, she said. Why? For not giving up on me. For saving me, even though I didn't want to be saved. For being here now, even though I treated you so badly. You are my daughter. I am always going to be here. Sarah put her head on my shoulder, like when she was little. Like when the world was simple and I could fix everything with a hug. I love you, Mom. I love you too, my girl. I love you too. The stars shone over the city. The air was fresh. And for the first time in years, I felt my family was complete. Not because of money, not because of appearances, but because of something deeper, something real. Something no David in the world could destroy. A year after David's arrest, I woke up early as always. I made coffee in the small kitchen I now shared with my daughter and granddaughter. I heard the sounds of the morning, Sarah getting ready for her shift at the hospital. Lily singing while she dressed for school. Normal sounds, real-life sounds. I sat by the window with my hot cup in my hands. The sun was starting to rise. The city was waking up slowly. And I thought of everything we had gone through to reach this moment of peace. Sarah came into the kitchen already dressed in her nurse uniform. She looked different now, thinner still, but in a healthy way. Her eyes had a clarity I hadn't seen in years. She no longer carried that invisible weight David had put on her shoulders. "Good morning, Mom." "Good morning, my love." "Coffee, please." She sat in front of me. She took the cup I passed her and drank slowly. Outside, the world went on. But inside, in this small apartment, we had built something new. Something that did not depend on lies or manipulation. "Today is the anniversary," Sarah said softly. "I know. A year since everything exploded. A year since the police took David away. A year since my life collapsed. And a year since you started rebuilding it." Sarah smiled. A small but genuine smile. "Yes, I guess it is that too." Lily ran in with her backpack half on. "Grandma, help me." I helped her with the straps while Sarah finished her coffee. These mornings had become our routine. Chaotic, noisy, but full of true love. "Ready for school?" I asked Lily. "Yes. Today we are going to draw animals." "What animal are you going to draw?" "A butterfly. Because butterflies are pretty and can fly wherever they want." Sarah and I exchanged glances. Lily didn't remember much of David. She was so little when he left that her memory of him was fading. Maybe that was a blessing. Maybe it was better she didn't carry those memories. After dropping Lily at school and Sarah at the hospital, I went back to the apartment. I had the day off work. I sat down with a box I had kept for months without daring to open it. Inside were all the photographs of the last 7 years. Sarah and David at their wedding. Sarah pregnant with David smiling next to her. Lily as a baby in David's arms. Christmases. Birthdays. Moments that seemed happy, but that I now knew were built on lies. I looked at every photograph. I no longer felt rage. I no longer felt sharp pain. Just a soft sadness for the lost time. For the years David stole from us. For the family we could have been if he had never appeared. But I also thought about what we had gained. Sarah was now stronger than ever. She had gone back to studying. She was taking courses to specialize in her career. She had real friends, not friends approved by David, but women who truly supported her, and our relationship had transformed. There were no longer secrets between us. There were no longer walls. We talked about everything, about her fears, about her hopes, about the difficult days and the good days. The phone rang. It was Frank. "Margaret, I have news." "Tell me." "We recovered part of the money. Not all. But we found an account overseas where David had hidden $43,000. The judge ordered it distributed among all the victims. Sarah's share is $12,000. It wasn't everything lost, but it was something. It was justice, even if partial. Thank you, Frank, for everything." "Don't thank me. This was teamwork. You were brave. Not many mothers would have done what you did." When I hung up, I called Sarah to give her the news. I heard her voice crack. $12,000. I can put a deposit on an apartment. We can have our own space again. There is no rush, my love. You can stay here as long as you need." "I know. But I also know you need your space. You have been so generous, so patient. You deserve to get your life back too. My life is complete with you here, and ours is complete with you. But maybe it is time we find a new balance. A place nearby, where we can visit each other every day, but where we also have our space." She was right. It was time to take the next step. Not to move away, but to grow toward something new. That afternoon, after picking up Lily from school, the three of us went to walk in the park. Lily ran ahead chasing pigeons. Sarah and I walked slowly behind her. "I have been going to therapy," Sarah said suddenly. "Yes, the hospital offers sessions for employees. I have been going for 3 months. It is helping me a lot. I am glad. The therapist says what I lived was abuse, not physical, but emotional. She says David isolated me systematically, that he destroyed my self-esteem, that he made me dependent on him for everything. How does that make you feel?" At first I got angry. I didn't want to be a victim. I didn't want to accept I had been so weak. But now I understand that recognizing the abuse doesn't make me weak. Getting out of it makes me strong. I hugged her as we walked. You are the strongest woman I know. I learned from the best. Lily ran toward us. Look, a flower. She was holding a wildflower she had plucked from the grass, yellow and small, but in her hands it looked like the biggest treasure in the world. It is for you, Grandma, because you take care of me. I took the flower and felt something break inside me. Not from pain, but from something sweeter, from gratitude for this moment, for this child, for this second chance we had been given. That night, after putting Lily to bed, Sarah and I sat on the balcony as we had done so many times in the last year. Do you know what is strangest? She said, looking at the stars. What? That I don't miss that life anymore. The big house, the new car, the appearances. I thought I would miss them. I thought I would feel less without those things. But I feel more real, more me. Because those things were never really yours. They were David's. They were part of his facade. And now I have things that are truly mine. My job, my career, my daughter, my relationship with you. No one can take them from me, ever. Sarah stayed quiet for a moment. Then she spoke with a soft voice. Do you ever think about how things would have been if David had never appeared? Sometimes. Do you think we would have been just as close? Honestly, I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe we needed to go through this to value what we have. It is an expensive way to learn a lesson. It is. But we learned it. And now nothing can separate us again. Months passed. Sarah found a small apartment 3 blocks from mine. 2 bedrooms. Small kitchen. But it was hers. Paid with her money. Earned with her effort. On moving day, we carried boxes between the 3 of us. Lily was excited to have her own room. To be able to paint the walls the color she wanted. To have a space that was truly hers. We are not going to stop seeing you, Sarah told me while we arranged the furniture. I know. 3 blocks is nothing. We are going to have dinner together twice a week. And Sundays we are always going to be together. That sounds perfect to me. That first night in her new apartment, Sarah called me. Mom, Lily can't sleep. She says she misses your apartment. Do you want me to come? No, just. Can you talk to her on the phone? I talked to Lily. I told her a story. I sang her a song. I heard her breathing become deep and calm. She fell asleep while I was still on the phone. Thank you, Mom, Sarah whispered. That is what I am here for. Now, sitting here in my apartment that became just mine again, I think about the whole journey traveled, from that terrible message telling me to stay away, to this moment of peace and rebuilding. I learned things I never wanted to learn, that love can be manipulated, that family can be destroyed from within, that the people we love most can be controlled by someone with bad intentions. But I also learned other things, that the truth always finds a way out, that true love survives even the worst storms, that it is never too late to save who you love. Sarah is fine now, better than fine. She is complete. She is whole. She is living an authentic life where every decision is hers, where every step is real. Lily is growing up in a home full of truth, where there are no dark secrets, where there is no manipulation, just honest love and unconditional support. And I have learned that being a mother is not just giving without measure. It is also knowing when to intervene, when to fight, when to risk everything to save your daughter, even if she doesn't want to be saved in that moment. David is in prison, Robert Vance, or whatever he is really called, far from us, unable to hurt us. And when he gets out in 4 more years, he will no longer have any power over this family, because we will have built something so solid that nothing can break it. Sometimes I think about the other women, Barbara, Emily, Tanya, all those who suffered before us, and I hope that somehow our case brought them some peace, some justice, something that tells them they were not crazy, that it wasn't their fault, that the monster was him, not them. The sun is setting now. Soon Sarah and Lily will come for dinner, like they do every Tuesday, like they will do every Tuesday for the rest of our lives. And we will sit together at this small table, and we will talk about our days, and we will laugh, and we will be family, real family. Not family built on money or appearances, but family built on truth, on forgiveness, on love that survived the impossible. And if someone asked me if I would do it again, if knowing all the pain it would cause, knowing how my daughter would hate me in that moment, knowing how difficult the road would be, if I would still call Frank, if I would still cooperate with the police, if I would still destroy the fake life Sarah believed she had, the answer is yes. 1,000 times yes. Because saving my daughter was worth every tear, every sleepless night, every moment of pain. And now, sitting here with my cold coffee and the sunset painting the sky, I ask you, and you, have you ever felt like they tried to erase you from your own story? That someone tried to take you out of the lives of the people you love? That you had to fight for a place that should have always been yours? If so, I want you to know something. You are not alone. Your pain is real, your struggle is valid, and you deserve to be in the lives of the people you love, not as a source of money, not as a convenience, but as a complete human being who gives unconditional love. And if you ever have to choose between being loved and being respected, choose respect, because love without respect is manipulation, and you deserve both. The doorbell rings. Sarah and Lily are here. I can hear my granddaughter's laughter from the hallway, my daughter's voice calling me. I open the door, and there they are, my family, real, imperfect, but completely ours, and that is all I ever wanted. Would you like me to generate a summary or key takeaways from this story to help you reflect on the themes of financial abuse and family resilience?